Welcome to this video that is an introduction to the Accountant in Business paper, the F1 ACCA paper. The first thing that we just need to have a think about is what exactly is the F1 paper all about? Well, the first thing to point out, as you can see, it is a knowledge level paper. It is testing that you have learnt material and that you understand what that material is actually about. So it's comprehending, not just learning. So you have to learn it, but you also have to understand what it all means. It is very much fact-driven and theory-driven. There is a lot of learning in this particular paper. As you can see in that second bullet point, it is a learning paper. There are lots of facts and lots of theories that you have to learn, and you will be asked to apply some of them. So what will happen in the exam questions, most of them will simply be testing your knowledge of something, but some of them will say, here is a situation, use a model, and I'll talk more about that in a few minutes' time. The final thing to notice on this paper is that F1 is used very, very much as a building block towards the later papers. It is not really a paper that you study on its own and you never see again. There are some of the ACCA papers that are like that. You do them and that's it. F1, virtually everything you do will be coming back again in later papers in some way or another. In some areas they will come back a lot. In some areas they will be assumed knowledge, and what I mean by that is when you do a later paper they will assume that you remember this from F1, and again I'll talk more about that a little bit later on. So the first major syllabus area, Area A, is about the structure of business organisations. Now what that means is, how is an organisation put together? Do you have one large organisation, or do you split it into a number of sections, a number of departments, a number of divisions? If you do, how do they talk to each other? How do they cooperate with each other? So the structure is all about things like who reports to who sits on various committees. The second area is about governance. Now, in many companies you have shareholders, but they rely on directors and managers to actually run the organisation. Governance is about the way those directors need to behave so that the shareholders can trust what they are doing. Now that is going to lead on to paper F8 and to paper P1, so you'll see those bits again. Area B, key environmental influences. This is going to lead on to paper P3 and to paper P5 later on. Environmental influences are things that are going on outside the organisation but that affect it. It should be fairly obvious to most of you that if you are running a business during an economic recession, so in other words, when things are bad, when people do not have a lot of money, that is very different to running a business when times are good, when there is a lot of credit and people are happy about spending. So the outside world, what's called the environment, actually makes a big difference towards a company. And all we're doing in Area B of the syllabus is thinking about what those key things might be. We will look at things like governments. We will look at things like taxes. We will look at things like the economy. So it's going to be a very general overview of what kind of things affect an organisation. Area C talks about the role of accounting. So the history and the role of accounting. Why did accounting first get started? So financial accounting has been around for hundreds of years. How did it begin? Most of Area C is about what we do with accounting in business. Now, some of you may already have looked at paper F3 or paper F2. If you haven't, you obviously will be looking at them at some stage. Paper F3 talks about the role of accounting, but it talks about a particular kind of accounting, which is financial accounting. How do we record the transactions of an organisation? How do we know how well the company's doing? How do we know how much profit they've had? So that's one role of accounting, but it's not the only role. Another role of accounting, which is what you do in paper F2, is management accounting. Now, management accounting is very different. It's about making decisions about the future. F3, financial accounting, is about recording what has already occurred. So accounting does actually a lot of different things in businesses. If you say to most people that you are an accountant, they will think you mean F3. But a lot of people that I teach as accountants don't work in F3 at all. They work in more areas to do with F2, management accounting. Area D, specific functions of accounting and internal financial control. Specific functions of accounting. This could include things such as credit control. How do we make sure that we get all of the money that we are owed by our debtors? How do we make sure that we get all of the receivables that people owe to us? Another area could be, how do we decide how much credit a new customer is going to have? So if we have somebody who comes to us that we've never dealt with before, how much credit do we give them? When do we send them a bill? How do we make sure the bill is paid? And all these different areas, this is all to do with a specific area of accounting. We will also have to make sure that we pay all of our bills. So not only do we collect all the money that's owed to us, but we pay all the money that we owe to other people. Somebody inside the company has to come up with a method to make sure that all these bills get paid.